After more than 2 months of pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, Washington continues to call for negotiations over Beijing screening electoral candidates. China's rejecting any outside interference in Hong Kong's vote, leaving the Obama administration with little room to maneuver, says Human Rights Watch China Director Sophie Richardson.
I think the U.S. continues to be quite inconsistent about issues about political rights and democracy in Hong Kong and China relative to the kind of support that it shows for those issues in other parts of the world. And being consistent, I think, matters enormously with Beijing.
In the South China Sea, where Vietnam says China's Coast Guard rammed its patrols, U.S. efforts to establish a code of conduct have been blocked by Chinese leaders who'd rather deal with territorial rivals individually, says Michael Oslin, who's an analyst with the American Enterprise Institute.
It's a perfect ploy to continue endless negotiations, sort of taking the North Korean book or now the Iranian book or really anyone's book who doesn't actually want to adhere to a code of norms, to spin out these meaningless and open-ended negotiations which really never get you any closer. Look, if China wanted to adhere to a code of conduct, it simply would do it.
The United States might more effectively influence China by better leveraging its position as the world's largest consumer market, says U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown.
They want access to our markets, our technologies, our universities. The heft of the U.S. government and our consumers can be used, if we choose to achieve real change in China.
Brown, however, sees diminishing interest in Washington about engaging China.
I think that our economy has been such, and the partisanship is so polarizing that China doesn't demand our attention the way the Middle East does.
Cato Institute analyst Justin Logan says that's partly because Asian issues in Washington are drowned out by the Middle East.
East Asian allies, right, should be cultivating the idea that this is an important thing to do. And they just, for whatever reason, it's not entirely clear to me, haven't been able to be a successful counterpoise to the Gulf Arab states, to a lesser extent Israel, and the sort of legions of Middle East experts in town who are insisting that this is, in fact, the appropriate focus for American strategy.
Presidents Barack Obama and Xi Jinping this year did agree on an ambitious plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions. In that engagement with China, Mr. Obama said he's encouraging Beijing to adhere to the same rules as other nations, whether in trade or on the seas. He says stability in Asia must be based not on spheres of influence or coercion, but on alliances of mutual security. Scott Stearns, VOA News at the State Department.